Welcome to My Life in Boxing with me, Gareth Davies, and him, Spencer the Omen Oliver. In this show, we speak to current fighters, ex-fighters, promoters, managers, commentators, MCs, but today, you're going to enjoy the show enormously. We have in the studio with us the one and only, the former undefeated cruiserweight champion of the world.
Go on, say it.
The one and only.
Say it again.
Iverson, Ranny, Johnny, Nelson, MBE.
I had an older brother, Alan. He was my hero. And because we had different second names, different fathers, when we went to the gym, he pretended he didn't know me because he said Harold and Brian would beat you up even more. That's just how it is. Remember, I was a shy kid, but I needed to make friends. So when I went to the gym, I just felt at home. The downside of going to the gym for me was having to box. I just wanted to make mates. I had 13 amateur fights. I won 3. Lost the first professional fight, lost the second professional fight, lost the third professional fight. In my head, I thought if I get to 5 and I'm not won, I'm packing in and getting a job. I say I lost. It was a draw because that's how it felt. And I let everybody down. Boom! I had a snap, and my patella tendon snapped in my knee. Boxing is something that I can physically control. I can't control what people think of me. I can't control what goes on behind the camera. I can control what happens with me.
How are you?
This is a pleasure, boys. I'm actually flattered to actually be in this. This is flash.
Oh, mate, this is very good. Gareth just mentioned there, you have to mention, mate, Iverson, Ranny. For people that don't know, you're known as Johnny Nelson, but your real name is Iverson Ranny Nelson.
You know, when I tell the story, people, it's that funny. It's unbelievable, but it's actually, I can never actually remember being called Iverson. I do now and again when I see my biological dad. He calls me Iverson. I'm like, so, but when I went to school, because we had different fathers, me and my sister, as a young man, it was uncomfortable trying to explain why we had different second names. And so Smith was the problem because I was known at school as Johnny Smith, not Johnny Nelson. But initially when I went to school, the teacher, I can remember first day at school, she was doing the register. And on the register, she did what you did earlier on, Iverson. I went, no, it's Iverson. No, it's Iverson. So I kept hearing something that she was saying it wrong. So I was a bit of a teary kid. So when she kept getting it wrong and all these kids are looking, thinking, what's his name? I just felt embarrassed and the bottom lips going. She said, stop. Just for today, we'll just pick a name from just in class today. Because they couldn't get it right. So it was a Catholic school and we went through all the apostles. Her son was called Morris, actually. He put his hand up and said, well, let's call him Morris. No, we've got a Morris. And so we went through it all, and going through the apostles, we had 2 Johns in class, and one of the kids shouted, let's call him Johnny. So all the little kids started laughing because for whatever reason, I don't know why they didn't know what a Johnny was. And so she said, yes, we'll call him Johnny for today. And that's where it came from. And so the kids at school had teased me, can I buy you a rubber, Johnny? to wind me up. And then when I met my biological dad when I was about 30, I said, where's Iverson come from? Because I used to feel uncomfortable with a name, I didn't like it. And he said, Iverson. Well, Iverson is a famous boxer in Dominica. Oh yeah. I said, what about my middle name, which is Ranny? Spelled R-A-N-N-Y. So it's Iverson Ranny Nelson. He went, that's after the comedian. I went, what comedian? He said, Ronnie Corbett. I went, it's Ronnie Corbett. Yes, Ronnie Corbett. I'm named after Ronnie Corbett.
Unbelievable.
So you can imagine him going into the registrar office saying Ronnie, and they spelt it how it sounded, and that's where it came from.
So you're a young lad who grows up in Sheffield. Mum and dad are part of the Windrush generation. Came from the West Indies, as we call it. Mum is Dominican Jamaican.
No. Mum's
Cuban Jamaican.
Cuban-born Jamaican.
And dad is Dominican.
Dominican. Yeah.
Tell us how you then, as a kid in Sheffield, first got into boxing. What are the memories? What are your memories of first memories of boxing?
Well, Mum came over in 1959, so the Jamaicans were on the top deck because that was the biggest West Indian island, and all the smaller islands like Dominica, Antigua, they were on the lower deck. So that's where friendships and unities were formed on the long journey over from the West Indies. And so Mum actually originally lived in London when she first came here, and then moved up north to Sheffield. I don't know why she moved to Sheffield. And so as a young man, we were staunch Catholics. We had to go. I was a Catholic. I was an altar boy, and we couldn't really play out with the kids.
I can see that. I can see that.
We couldn't really play out with the kids in our area because it was like a bit rough, but not rough. But we couldn't really play out with them. We could be outside the house, and that was it. So my friends, actually, I had associates that lived close by, but my friends were friends from school. Now, the school I went to used to be an all-girls school, and we were the second-year guinea pigs, and it was called Notre Dame. Green uniform, run by nuns. And so by the time, so they picked kids from certain areas of Sheffield to go to this school because they don't open up to boys. And so all my friends were from that area as well, from the area, and a few kids from rough areas. So basically, by the time I left school, my mates were those posh kids, Italian, white, Asian, and there was probably 4, maybe 5 black kids in our school.
What's your first memory of boxing?
First memory of boxing is walking down Fargate, a precinct in Sheffield, and there's a big crowd, and I hear Brendan Ingall's voice. Go on, hit him! And so I look round, and he's got Harold Bomber Graham doing a boxing exhibition in the street. And he had us all doing it eventually. And what he'd do is he'd take you to a working men's club. He'll take you to everywhere, and just to integrate and let people in Sheffield know about the boxing. And so they could hit him, and he couldn't hit him back. So you just had to move, and Brendan would be shouting, "This is the only place you can hit a black man without getting arrested." He'd get cancelled today.
Wow, he would.
And so he'd get people G'd up and everything. And I'm stood there thinking, I can get him. And so, does anybody else want to have a go? I'll put my hand up. I'll have a go. And he said, come on. Got there, put the gloves on. Harold put his hands behind his back, and he's talking to me. He's like, I'm trying to hit this guy. Couldn't hit him.
How old are you, 9 or 10?
No, I was about 12. I could not hit him. Harold was just all over the place, but he was doing it with a smile on his face. Proper. I just wanted to smash him.
So what were those events like with Brendan Ingle?
Spenny, they were, I look back on it, a smile. They were great. He'd take us to working men's clubs, he'd take us to shopping centres, precincts, and he'd say to people, look, this is the only place you can hit a black man without getting arrested. And that was to G him up. Brendan would probably get cancelled if he was in today's society. But he always said to us, the best people to fight are the people that don't know how to fight, because you don't know what they're going to do next. And then it kind of installed it all. And that's why a lot of the guys from our gym were very good defensive fighters, but it was just learning to deal with people as well.
We'll get deep into the gym in a moment, but finally on this, did you have other family members that had introduced you to boxing, or was this your first taste of it?
No, I had an older brother, Alan. He was my hero. Some people have Ali and Sugar Ray. Alan was my hero. And he boxed. He was a cruiserweight, but cruiserweight wasn't popular then, so he was a small heavyweight. I think he had about 16 fights, won 14. And I just followed him. And he just said, Johnny, you can't do this because you'll get hurt. And because we had different second names, different fathers, when we went to the gym, he pretended he didn't know me because he said Harold and Brian and beat you up even more. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
That's the culture of the gym. So I'd get in the bus. We'd both get in the bus. He'd walk up the hill first. I'd wait 5 minutes, and then I'd walk in, and we won't talk to each other. We got away with it for about 2 years.
So the Brendan Ingle Gym, St Thomas's Boys Club, right on the very steep hill there in Sheffield. Tell us about those first days of going into the gym, how it changed you, what it meant to you.
I remember walking in. I was a shy kid. If an adult spoke to me, I'd start crying. And I don't know why, I was just a nervous kid. But I needed to make friends because I didn't really know the kids from my area. And so Alan was there, my brother. So when I went into the gym, I can remember walking in, and I knew when I walked in, I just felt at home. It was like a circus. And Brendan was in the top corner, and when he was in the top corner, I walked up to him and he said, "What's your name?" I went, and just as I'm about to say my name, he said, "Stop." He said, "Face the wall and tell me about yourself." And I'm like, "What?" So he said, "Face the wall and tell me about yourself for 2 minutes." This was the first lesson, now I look back on it, about preparing a boy and turning him into a man, a confident young man. And he just knew straight away. I loved it.
How important was it to meet someone like Brendan, you know, like a mentor, a hero, a trainer? How important in your life was that, Johnny?
To me, I wouldn't be the person I am today without meeting Brendan. To me, I think Brendan is, and you didn't know what you needed till you met him. And to me, I think Brendan was my saviour, without a doubt. God knows what I would have done in life. God knows where I'd have ended up. But it wasn't just about boxing. It was about having belief in yourself, having an understanding of people. I couldn't read when I left school. When I met Brendan, my education started then. He started to teach me about people. You know, we'd walk and talk. He talked to me about history. He always said, schools teach you to remember. I'm going to teach you to think. And it was a great lesson for me.
He used to open the doors to everyone, Brendan, not just boxers, did he? I mean, you mentioned there Errol Bomber Graham, but like, you know, I'll ask you about the other fighters that were in there as well. But this was open to the public and the troubled kids. He'd done more than just produce boxers.
Yeah.
He took the kids from the streets, didn't he?
Without a doubt. What the champions you saw Brendan produce out of the gym were the tip of the iceberg. You look at the bottom of an iceberg, it's massive. And at his funeral, the amount of people, and I realised how much of effect he had on our community, because the amount of people that came and said, "Oh, Brendan, he helped me do this and he helped me do that." I'm thinking, how can you help all these people when you've got 5 kids of your own, a wife, and he's got us nutters in the gym and our family problems as well, but people that I'd never seen before saying, "Brendan helped me do this, and he helped my kid go to school." And I'm like, wow. I know Brendan's left.
What other fighters were in there at the time? Because like you say, you mentioned Errol Bomber Graham.
Talk to us about Errol as well, because he's often mentioned in British boxing as someone that people love and admire. What was it about Errol and those other ones that Spence mentioned?
Errol Graham's style was the final ingredient that made Brendan who he was. Errol Graham's style was, his hands were down. It was a bit unkept. Brendan tightened it up, hands down, you know, produced cameos of brilliance, relax, and be unorthodox. And so Brendan took that and tweaked it, and then we all got tweaked. And it was just really good. Errol Graham was one of the most underrated champions, fighters from our gym that never won a world title. He was slick. He was unbelievably slick. And anybody that knows boxing will remember Bomber Graham. I knew he was famous when we came down here and we were going to the Albert Hall and we were walking in the street and a taxi driver pulled up and shouted, "Bomber!" And I'm thinking, oh my God, he knows Errol. And I'm with him. But our gym had Brian Anderson. He was ended up being the first black prison governor in the UK. And Brendan said to him, Brendan opened doors, and he was British middleweight champion. Time would go on. I talk about all fighters. But our gym produced Prince Nassim Hamid, Ryan Rose, Junior Witter, Paul Silky Jones, all world champions, remember, Kell Brook, all world champions. Our gym created 7 world champions, 9 Commonwealth champions, 16 British champions. I think it was 12 European champions
Kid
in
Galahad
that little gym.
since then as
Kid
well.
Galahad, sorry, and that little gym. And that's how he rolled.
It really is. And you started your amateur career from that gym as well, didn't you? Like, how long after you walked in the gym did that start that amateur career? And tell us a little bit about how you was as a person when going into those fights as an amateur as well, because I know there was a lot of fear there, or what you thought was fear, wasn't there? Tell us about that. It's a great story.
So I went. The downside of going to the gym for me was having to box. I just wanted to make mates. I didn't want to box, but I had to box. I'm like, and so I can remember going to the fights, looking at the clock, thinking, how long are 2-minute rounds? Oh my God, can I do this? So if I lost, I didn't care. I had 13 amateur fights. I won 3. I didn't care. I was the butt of everybody's jokes. And I didn't care, but I was still with my mates in the gym.
Why did you think you lost those 10 though? Like it was deeper than that, wasn't it? It was like going in there and you you not understanding what nervous energy was
Yeah.
and fear.
Bang right. I used to mistake nerves for fear. So that feeling in your tummy, and it's been explained to me by a professor, the feeling that you have in your tummy when you're scared is exactly the same feeling when it's nerves, and it's how you translate it in your brain. So I thought I was scared. So I'd get in a fight, I'd grab, I'd hold, I'd thinking, oh my God, I'd be sweating, I'd be panicking. So it was trying to control that dragon inside you. I thought it was fear. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s I realised, what am I doing here? Hey, I'm not scared. You know, you're just nervous. And then I remember being that nervous kid. I was that nervous kid that couldn't handle it.
What weight were you fighting at? Did you have that style, that long style that you used as a pro?
No, I was like a big baby giraffe.
And what were you, a heavyweight?
Super middleweight.
Super middle.
Super middleweight.
So you were a big, long, gangly thing.
Do you know what? I've seen photos when you was a light heavyweight. The photos that I've seen as light heavyweight, and you looked like you were starved.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So before we go to your pro career, right? What are the things you did learn about yourself as an amateur? Apart from you weren't ever going to be a boxer, what did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I wasn't stupid.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because I left school with no qualifications, no reading or writing ability. That of a 9-year-old. And so I just thought, I loved school because I went there for a laugh with my mates. I was a class clown, but everybody else was getting on with their life. But when I'd left school, I didn't even they walked me out of school. I didn't even do exams. They walked me out of school. And I always thought I was stupid because when people are having a conversation, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. So I'd be quiet or I'd laugh and joke or do some kind of distraction. It wasn't until I met Brendan where Brendan started teaching me about life.
But didn't he take you to a local radio station as well? Because he recognised your person. It's why you do this today.
But
he recognised something in you as a person.
But Gareth, he did it with us all. So what he did with me, I wasn't the only one. So every Saturday, he'd take us to Radio Sheffield.
Yeah.
And there was a radio presenter called Robert Jackson.
Yeah.
And he'd have his show. And it was our education. Brendan would get us to sit whilst he was on the radio, then pull us in. And then we'd talk on the radio. So usually when you see young fighters, when they start talking, it's they don't know what to say, they don't know how to present themselves. He said, I want you to feel comfortable in front of a microphone and a camera now, so you don't look like an idiot when you get older.
Wow, he was so far ahead of his time, wasn't he?
All about believing in himself. I totally recognise you was a kid that was scared of your own shadow.
Yeah, without doubt.
Flipped everything. And that is all about here, the psychological side. And that was what Brendan
That's what you
was
reckon.
famous for.
I thought, what are you seeing? What do you see in me? Why do you not kick me out of the gym? Because I was like the embarrassment of the gym. And people said, get him out. Dominic Ingle, Dominic's a year younger than me. He said, Dad, why have you got him in the gym? Get him out. He don't want to fight. So I was that bad, but that's where my mates were. So from that point on, when he said turn pro, I'm like, really? He goes, Johnny, you might as well get paid for it.
Well, let's get into it. You turn pro. Let's talk about those first 10 fights. I think you lost your first 3 to start with as well.
On the trot.
Talk to us about turning pro, what the mindset was like, and what it was like at the beginning.
Now, this mindset will flip you a little bit. Lost the first professional fight, lost the second professional fight, lost the third professional fight. In my head, I thought, if I get to 5 and I'm not won, I'm packing in and getting a job. So I won the 4th. I thought, damn it, I've got to start again. So I'm thinking, I've got to lose 4, 5 on the trot to get a job. Then I'll pack in and get a proper job. I'm not thinking I want to win and get good. I'm thinking, so each time I won, I thought, God, I've got to start again. And so then all of a sudden, I look back, I'm thinking, I won. I beat him. And so the little seed started to grow, made me think to myself, you've not even, for what you've done as an amateur, and some kids I beat that were top amateurs, and I beat them. I didn't think I was good. I just thought they were bad. So my thinking was upside down. I didn't ever, whenever I succeeded and won a fight or did something good or survived against someone Megan Havner, he was my second professional fight. I went out to Denmark to box him. He won a gold medal in the Olympics. I lost some points to him. Someone like me should have blasted a kid that has had 13 amateur fights, only winning 3. So I came back and Brendan started saying, look, Johnny, look at what you did with him. And I'm like, what? Now I look back on it, I understand what he was doing.
So you were earning 200 odd quid for these early
£190 my first fight.
And 190, but not a lot of money.
No, not a lot.
Even then, it wasn't a lot of money.
Any stoppages out of that?
No. £190. And remember, whoever...
So Brendan didn't take any money off you?
No. So how he took money off you was whoever boxed. So 3 or 4 guys from the gym came to the show. When I boxed and I got paid 190 quid, when we're driving up the motorway in the car, we stop at the service station. I've got to pay for everybody's food.
Gone.
That's Brendan's cut.
Nice.
So Brendan used to say, I can remember him saying, he said, I'm on 25%. So if you earn £100, how much you'll get? I said, £25, £400, £100. And then we're going, he had Naz and everybody was sat there. He said, what if you earned £4 million? And Naz said, nah, I'm not giving you that, Bren.
Yeah.
And he went, you're a little
Well, that led to things later on, didn't it? So you get to a dozen fights.
Yeah.
You're going to fight for the British title. This is cruiserweight now, yeah? You're a cruiserweight by now. You've grown. He's beaten you in the amateurs.
Yeah.
Are you correct?
Good knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
What happens mentally and physically meeting this guy and you're going to fight for the British
Brendan did an amazing brain job on him. So when it came to the press conference, he was a minor. Ian Bullock, his name was. And when I boxed him in the amateurs, I can remember getting in the ring and his support shouting, get him in, he's got a spear down his trunk, you black. All this sort of give me some right abuse. And I'm like, Brendan taught us, he prepped us for this.
Yeah.
So, and this guy's beating me up. I got disqualified against him actually in the amateurs. So I turned pro now. And he won the British title. I think I don't know if he beat Andy Strawn or lost to Andy Strawn. He lost to Andy Strawn. Andy Strawn got knocked out against somebody else. Anyway, so I became British champion. And Ian Bullock is my mandatory defence. So he thinks, I've got this. I've done him before. Ragdolled him. So now it came to the fight in Hanley, in Stoke. And all these minor friends that gave me abuse as an amateur are there in the balcony. I know I'm a different fighter now. I know I'm not that boy that he roughed up. And so I thought, I'm going to get this kid here.
You're believing in yourself.
I believe in myself.
Champion's mindset.
Yeah, I thought, he's not going to do me. So we get on the ring. If you ever watch a cartoon, and sometimes when he hits someone and they slide out, he slid under the bottom rope, knocked him out in 3 rounds. He was gone, but it created a riot inside the place. It was absolute mayhem. So Brendan rushed me to the dressing room. We were in the dressing room for 2 hours. And you could hear the police outside and everything. So he said, let's get out the fire exit. So he went to the back door. There's a handprint of blood on the door. He said, we'll wait here a minute. And we stayed in 2 hours. We were in the back room. It kicked off heavy. It was funny, but I got the job done.
Let's move to world title.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I mean, we'll skip the European. We'll come back to that, actually. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about your first world title shot. You probably don't want to talk about it, if I'm honest. Carlos de Leon. It was a fight that you got that opportunity. It was in your hometown of Sheffield. It was all there to be, and it wasn't to be. Talk to us.
Do you remember when I said to you, whenever I won a fight, I didn't think I was good. I just thought they were bad. Even being British champion, I didn't think I was good. I just thought they were bad. My head was upside down. I got the opportunity to box Carlos de Leon for the WBC title in Sheffield. Now I thought, God, this guy's only lost it. I think it was Evander Holyfield at that time. Now I know these people can fight. So I've lost already in my head, but I'm fronting it all out and everything. And everybody was my mate in Sheffield. Go on, Johnny. And it's in the hometown. So now this shy boy.
He had a reputation as well.
He had a rep.
He had a reputation.
Yeah, he had a rep.
And you say you lost. I want to know where it was lost, Johnny. Was it in the changing rooms? Was it before the changing rooms? Or was it on the ring walk? Because that's the mindset of a fighter. That's where fights are won and lost. It's your big moment.
Benny, I lost before I even got to the venue because I was fronting out to everybody, but I knew this guy was good. So therefore I thought, you can't hustle this guy, he's good. So that's number one, that's the part of it. So I get to the venue, and when I get to the venue, it's packed out in Sheffield. Anybody I knew in Sheffield was there. I opened the curtain, they were cast from Emmerdale, EastEnders, Frank Bruno was there. For me, Linda Lusardi was there. Do you know Linda?
Remember Linda Lusardi, the page?
She was there. I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, it's coming on top here. Now they're going to realise I proper bottled it. So when I got there, Brendan knew. And Brendan said, Johnny, he's talking to my face. Johnny. He said, come on, get your head in. I'm like, I've gone. But I didn't say anything. Walked in, I stepped over the top rope. Brendan knew I'd gone. And he's shouting at me, Johnny, you don't regret this in the morning. And I'm thinking, I don't want to get knocked out in front of all these people because I'll embarrass myself. I did just that because I was trying to hit, hold, not get hurt because I didn't want to get knocked out. And they were booing, they were vilifying me, and I'm like, and so I
was booing you from the press row.
And I felt sorry because Barry Hearn was my promoter at the time.
Yeah.
It was his wife's 40th birthday. So for his wife,
Susan.
For his wife's birthday, he brought her to my fight.
Wow.
And I stunk the night out.
And yet, you get a draw.
I got a draw.
Did it fill you with confidence?
No. Didn't. You see, again, I say I lost. It was a draw.
It was a draw.
But and De Leon had actually done that in many, stunk a lot of places out. So it takes two to tango. In my head, I lost because it was just not. I wouldn't say I got a draw with him, and I say I lost because that's how it felt. Because I let everybody down.
I mean, you lost that world title, and you're thinking now, where's this other shot going to come from? We've stunk the house out, and people, it's not TV friendly. Am I going to get another opportunity? When am I going to get another opportunity? But you do, and you go and collect the European title. Tell us about that.
Well, let me go back a little bit. So after that fight, no promoter wanted to put me on. I can't remember the promoter. He put something in the box news saying he wouldn't have Johnny Nelson on one of his shows. And that's, in the national newspaper, they do cartoons of jokes of people, and there was a cartoon of a guy in the national newspaper, and he'd been in a coma for 10 years, and they put the TV in his hospital room, and put the Johnny Nelson Carlos de Leon fight on, and the fellow woke up out the coma to turn the TV off to go back into his coma. This was in the newspaper, so everywhere I was getting hammered. Nobody wanted to touch me.
But Johnny, you go on to have the longest defence of a world cruiserweight title, 7 years. I remember covering most of those fights. Sometimes you stank the place out still.
Yeah, right.
Occasionally. I'm not being rude to you. No, because that was your... If you didn't want to get touched, look at your faculties, look at your brilliance and your beauty still. You didn't get hit a lot.
No, I didn't.
But where's the point along that journey where something in you changed? Because Brendan told me you could have been world champion right now still.
So I think before I became world champion, I was world champion. The penny dropped when I was sparring with Fabrice Tioso in Lyon, in France. And I was battering him every day. Darky Smith was his coach, brought him to be his coach. Yeah. And every day I'm battering this guy, and I'd phone Brendan every night. Brendan said, don't get the sack, otherwise you won't get paid. We get £100 a day. So I'd have to pull the shots. And Fabrice would throw a shot and I'd roll the shots. I'm like, what? And I'd be able to hit him when I want. And Darky was behind him, saying, back off. Telling me to back off. I'm like, what? And every day was like this. And I'm sitting in the day little bedsit, and I came out of the gym, and there was a beautiful girl in a car outside, and she waved at me. And I'd been there 3 months, man, as his sparring partner, and I waved back at her, and I smiled, and then I heard a voice behind me, see you tomorrow, Johnny. And I turned around, it was Fabrice, and his wife was waving to him, not me.
No way.
And I thought, so Fabrice...
It's happened again.
I thought, so Fabrice got in the car, chauffeur driven, and I'm stood there in the street, and he drive off. And I thought, what is going on here? It's like big chauffeur driven limo. I'm going to stay in the dirty little bedsit. I'm getting
and you're beating him up.
Yeah, I'm beating him up every day. And I thought, Johnny, you're an idiot. The only difference between him and you is he can perform in public and you can't. And I walked back to the bedsit, put me in the payphone. Brendan said, Daddy, go today. I told him, I said, Brendan, you know what? I told him what happened. I said, I'm never going to lose again. Brendan said, good lad, come on. And that was it. And I never lost. And that's when I believed and knew I was a good fighter.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your life on the road. You'd won British titles, but yet you become a sparring partner. And it was abroad, and it was in Europe, and it was not a particularly nice time for a black guy to be going to Europe, to some of the countries that you'd went to. Talk to us about that experience, Johnny, because I think that's what really moulded you as a person, as a fighter. And I want to get into that.
The worst thing the Germans did was let me be their sparring partner. They used to ship all of us in, Bigfoot Martin, when Akinwande used to go out there, and there was a place called Frankfurt Oder in Germany on the border of Poland. And it was when they had those little yellow Trabant cars. There was no black people there apart from the sparring partners they shipped in. They said to us, don't go out at night time. And I'm like, you're talking about? You know, and like in the morning sometimes I think I want to go for a run. I can remember going for a run one morning, there was a wood down the bottom. And as I'm running, this army helicopter came over and was hovering above me. And you could feel the wind off it. So I'm thinking, because I'm in like this wilderness, so I've started shadow boxing just to say, and it shut off. Then I went back, and one night I thought I want to go for a walk. And I came out the bedsit, horrible. And I'm walking up the road, and there's a little yellow Trabant car that could see 4 bald heads in it, and the car stopped in the middle of the road up ahead. And then it was just, and I'm thinking, what have they stopped for? And it's not late at night time, and I thought, just turn back, walk back. And I told Axel Schultz, who I was spying with the next day, he said, Johnny, don't come out at night time, they will kill you. There's not many people that look like you. And so it was horrible going there as a sparring partner because you're in a cell. You went back to your room, you waited for the 2 hours you went to the gym, the only time you're going to meet people. They didn't speak to you. His coach hated me. Axel was a nice guy, actually. Rudy May and Torsten May, they were the only 3 that spoke to me. Henry Mask, he was a bit of a, he was all right. He's all right.
Prima donna.
Yeah. But it was horrible, but it was the best thing I ever learned because I learned discipline. I learned how good I was. I learned what I could get away with. I never got knocked out, ever got knocked out. And I used to see him knock people out cold. So because I never got knocked out or beat up, I thought, I'm actually not bad here.
We're going to talk you through your succession into World Cruiserweight Champion.
Let's do it, baby.
But you did flirt with heavyweight.
Yeah.
Just for 3 or 4 fights as well. Why?
Because most cruiserweights can beat most heavyweights.
Like Jai Pataya today, like Usyk, like Hay, like Holyfield.
Until you get to the top 5% of heavyweights.
Right,
And you're giving far too much away. Yeah. But most good heavyweights can beat the most good cruiserweights can beat most heavyweights until you get to top 5%. So I knew I won like the WBU heavyweight title against Jimmy Thunder down in New Zealand. I won against Nikolai Kulpin in Thailand, some heavyweight title. I wasn't a heavyweight. I just went up, got a payday, beat these guys, come back down.
Was it because the money wasn't in the room though, back in the day in cruiserweight? So we had Alexander Usyk who really lit it up, and Evander Holyfield in more recent times. David Hay. But with yourself, you was fighting, and there was good fighters in Europe, like you're saying, and around the world at that time. The money maybe not in the room, so you think you have a little flirt with heavyweight and go up there, and you was having success there
was no money at cruiserweight. And at heavyweight, when I boxed heavyweight, I was brought in as the opponent because they looked at my record. I drew for a title that stunk the place out. I'd lost for the IBF title against James Waring. They thought, he's got a good record, he's not very good. Not doing their homework. And so when I went there to fight these heavyweights, I actually was a handful and beat them and beat most of them. And so I can remember boxing Corey Sanders.
Yes, you did, of course. Who knocked out Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah. Now, I was 13 stone 12. He was 17 stone 12. He should have boxed Bone Crusher Smith. Bone Crusher Smith failed the medical. They flew me out 2 weeks before.
You took him to a points, didn't you? 10 rounds, 12 rounds.
So in me, I learn from a loss. If I've lost, I'm thinking, well, look at what you've done and look at what I've done. So therefore, you should have knocked me out.
Yeah.
So is it you that's not good, or is it me that doesn't believe in what I can do? And that's when I start to believe myself, thinking, I'm actually not bad here if I really try.
So, talk to us about getting your hands on this veritable world title, the WBO, one of the main sanctioning body belts. Talk to us about your accession to the throne, the first time you won the world title at the WBO.
That was against Carl Thompson for the WBO title.
Carl
the Cat
Thompson.
Yeah.
The Cat.
We love Carl Thompson.
You know what?
Special fighter.
I was a fan of his. I used to watch him fight.
Another guy that doesn't get the recognition that he deserves.
I was a big fan of his, but I always knew he wore his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
So again, you had to do a brain job on him.
Who did he fight that we really...
Chris Eubank.
Chris Eubank twice.
A proper war.
And?
Rocchiani, did he box Nicky Piper?
David Hay.
David Hay, knocked out David Hay.
Knocked out David Hay.
David Hay's professional fight.
So you were up against someone formidable.
Yeah.
Please tell the story of how you got into his head, because I know this one and it needs to be told. It's like genius.
Please.
So I knew he went to a club in Warrington called Mrs. Smith's. And I'd seen him there before. And the girl I was seeing, she said, this boxer's just trying to chat me. I'm like, who? She went, and I looked, I thought, it's Carl Thompson. But I didn't let him see me. And anyway, it came to the fight. And when it came to the fight, we sat down at the press conference. Brendan had not turned up yet, otherwise I wouldn't have done it if Brendan was there, I'd have got in trouble. He sat down with Billy Graham, I'm sat down, John Ingle was sat down, and so I said, John, just follow me. He went, all right. He said, because it was that in their area, I said, I used to go to a club around here. I think it's called Mr. Smith's. and so John went, oh yeah. I said, it was not bad. I met this girl. Her name was, I can't remember Carl's wife's name. I think it was something like Julie, something like that. I met this girl called Julie. Oh my God. I wasn't even saying anything. But Carl's like, so he said, Mr. Smith, he said his wife's name. And then I see Carl get up and go in the corner on the phone, giving me a head, nodding, and I thought, John's laughing. I thought, we've got him. And he came back and he was fuming. So obviously, I felt sorry for his wife because I'd never met the woman, but I got him. I knew that was there. So I needed him to hate me. If he hated me, I've got to get in this guy's head so he doesn't think about what Billy Graham's telling him, because Billy Graham's a good coach, a good strategist. So then it came to the fight. At that time, Naz and Brendan had split. Naz was trying to undermine the gym and get fighters to leave the gym. Naz sponsored Carl Thompson. Carl Thompson's team came in with the Prince Nassim Hamid t-shirts on, and sponsoring. Naz sponsored me, my boy, and I stood there and I thought, you rat.
Yeah.
I thought, then that's the worst thing you could have done, because I'm going to batter him.
The game plan now is already gone, because you've got inside his head what people might not understand about this whole psychological battle and the mental warfares that you have to go through in the build-up to fights. You've already done him at the press conference.
You've got him.
So now his game plan's gone, so you know exactly what his game plan's going to be.
We've not finished.
I'm going to come straight at you.
Yeah. We're not finished there. So Dominic says, tell him you're going to knock him out in 5 rounds. I'm like, what? He said, just keep telling anybody you're going to knock him out in 5 rounds. Okay, so everywhere in the press, I'll knock him out in 5 rounds. So Carl's thinking, you're not. So Carl did nothing apart from try and walk me down. And he lost every round to that point. And then when they stopped the fight, they shouldn't have stopped the fight, because I was going to knock him out, but he was in trouble. He was in trouble. So it looked like it was getting a shellacking, and the referee jumped in and stopped the fight.
You never outwardly showed that you had any nerves. You always looked bigger than your opponents.
It was the hustle.
That run was extraordinary.
Tell us. I believed
just talk
in myself.
through that run.
I believed in myself.
Yeah.
When I boxed Carl Thompson.
Yeah.
And that's why I say a lot of fighters that are out there today, world champions that are out there, don't believe they're the best in the world. I believed I was the best in the world.
Finally.
By the time I boxed Carl Thompson, because I'd gone through every experience possible.
So you turned pro, what, in 1986, was it?
86.
86. And in 1999 is the first time you've actually believed in yourself. You've been
unbelievable.
British, European, lost for the world title,
that's
now
right.
boxing.
So now I think, you know what? I'm the best in the world, because I've gone through everything. I've been a sparring partner, I've stayed in dumps, I've been chased in the street, I've been abused all over the world. Why not me? So because I still have imposter syndrome. If I'm sat at the table with David Hay or Carl Froch and they're talking about representing their country, I'm like thinking, I shouldn't really be here, man. But that's the kid I was.
Yeah.
And that's the kid I am. So then when it comes to being a champion, to me, it wasn't that like, oh, I'll make another defence. I just felt as though it wasn't enough. So when I became champion, I thought, is that it?
You wouldn't let it go, would you?
I want more than that.
You wouldn't let it go.
Yeah, it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So people, some fighters, their goal is to be British champion. And then when they get it, they can't achieve anything more. This might be Commonwealth, European, might be world. Then some might be to unify it. Getting the world title wasn't enough for me, because now I believed myself. I thought, I want more than this.
So we get to 2006. You're going to fight Enzo Maccarinelli, but it never materialises, and you retire. Why?
I retired because I remember when Enzo Maccarinelli, Frank Warren was building him up, he was knocking everybody out, and I saw this kid, I thought, I'm going to do him. And it was on ITV. He was an ITV fighter. But the last time I boxed on ITV was against Carlos De Leon and stunk the place out. So I'm thinking, I want to come back, fight this kid they're building up, and they'll think, that Johnny Nelson, he's still boxing. And the ITV audience will see me come back and smash him and knock him out. It was the last day, last round, the last training session, I was sparring. Brendan said, that's it, Johnny, you've done. And so I said, Brendan, one more round. I'm sparring, and it was a heavyweight I was sparring with. I switched orthodox to southpaw. Boom, I had a snap. And my patellar tendon snapped in my knee. Now, I'm in denial now, because it was my last round. So my kneecap was here in my thigh.
Oh.
And so I'm rubbing this bump because I thought it was cramped. Because it didn't hurt, it snapped clean. I'm on the floor, the sparring partner's like, Crunchy. Mark Crenshaw was the sparring partner. And I'm sat there, I'm on the floor rubbing it, and Brendan said, "You all right?" I went, "Yeah, Brendan, just a bit of cramp." I could see the look in their face. Dominic walked up to me as I'm sat in the room. I said, "Brendan."
His son Dominic.
His son Dominic. "Let me just go home. It's Friday. Let me go home. I'll come back Monday. I'll have a stretch out. If it's not good, then I'll check out the doctor." He went, "Johnny, I'll take you to the hospital." I thought, if he takes me to the hospital,
you're done.
I'm done. They'll put drugs in me, I'm done. So Dominic walked up to me and he put his finger where my knee was and it went in.
Oh God.
And so I'm like, no, I tried to run out of the gym, but my leg won't work. I'm trying to drag my leg. So they phoned an ambulance, took me to the hospital. That was it.
You recognise your career's done as a boxer. You know, you've come to the end. You're the longest reigning, and this stands still today, actually, the longest reigning cruiserweight champion ever, 13 title defences.
Yeah.
Marco Huck equalled that.
He did.
Yeah, boy,
Yeah.
rubbish.
Not the same. Let's forget about him. Anyway, Johnny, you made that transition then from boxer straight into working in broadcasting for Sky. Talk to us a little bit about those times and that transition and why you decided to do that.
And how did it come about?
I was just asked to be a guest by Adam Smith, spoke to the boss, Chris Brown, and said...
He loved you, by the way, Chris Brown.
Chris Brown.
Yeah, he did.
Chris was all right with me, man. And he didn't like anybody else, but he was all right with me. And
he hated me.
No, he did. He always gave me a hard time. He did. And they got me on... The first time I did it, like, the camera's there, I was at home, they asked me to ask me about a fighter. I spoke to the camera, Chris Brown apparently said, "I like him, get him in," just to commentate on one of the fights. And they just got me in now and again to commentate. Then they gave me a contract. I'd never had a job before, a proper job in my life. The first contract was for £10,000. I'm like, yeah, I've got a job. It was nice working with other fighters because for us, from boxing, you know, we know what's important and what's dangerous, getting hit in the face. Yeah. But when you're working in TV, we've got 5 seconds, and they're panicking about 5 seconds. And so we could have a laugh and fun about it. There was no stress.
And also, at that time, when we're there, you go, like, we've had our careers, and you go, we haven't earned enough money to be able to retire from, so we'd have to go back in. So for us, as fighters, it was like a pinch yourself moment doing what we was doing. We go, because otherwise we were back on the shovel, back on the tools, back on, like, just doing a normal 9 to 5 job, working hard, so not much money.
Yeah, this is where time caught back up on me again. Remember, my reading and writing ability wasn't great. So when we started to do auto cue, I panicked because then I thought, oh my God. So I'd be like I'd be reading like word for word, trying to get it wrong, and I'd be sweating cobs, and my neck would go in, and so Adam,
I remember that time.
I was terrible.
I remember that time.
And it's only because I wasn't confident in my reading ability.
Yeah, I remember
and so
that time.
and Adam
pulling out excuses like, I think I need glasses.
Yeah. And Adam, bless him. And Adam, bless him. He could have blown me up, and he said, "I tell you what," he said, "Johnny, forget about the auto cue. This is what we're natural. Talk about. Just be yourself."
Yeah.
It was the best thing he did.
One of the greatest things people remember you for, apart from your presentation, everything you've done now, is we love watching the gloves are off with you. You've done a few of those. Yeah. You've done a few that have been very explosive. Can I throw a few at you?
Yeah, throw them out.
And give us your memories? Dillian White, Derek Chisora. That kicked off, didn't it?
That was the hairiest one I've ever done. And I mean, to the point where Derek Chisora jumped across the table. They had to put the footage in embargo. If you ever saw it, Derek Chisora jumped across the table, bit Dillian White on the chest. If you hear a man scream, and we're like, oh, there's water everywhere. We're trying to separate them. We managed to get Dylan out the studio. We tried to get him out, and the security guard locked the door. And I'm like, open the door. He said, "I'm containing it." I went, "Not with us in here." And it was just mad. It was absolutely mad. I'm like, and Derek's just laughing like.
It always reminds me of the I think it was the Parkinson show with Muhammad Ali and
Joe Frazier,
where they were actually ready to kick off and then have a proper fight. Frotch and Groves.
Frotch Groves was the first one that you thought, we got something special here.
Yeah.
Groves was like, we got to have a push and a pull. And like, Groves was like, as I say, you can't let him do that because Groves was winding him up. He had his number.
Yeah,
you know how to pick and poke. And so the second time around, Carl was taking no foolishness.
It was a new show, though, wasn't it? That
It was
Gloves
a new
Are Off.
show.
No one had ever seen that before.
Yeah, but when we-
darkened room.
Yeah, but
it
when-
felt like a nightclub.
When
It
Adam
had-
and myself did ringside,
Yeah.
we had David Hay and Klitschko
Yeah.
when they were building that fight up.
Yeah.
And Klitschko came in, he was in the studio, and David Hay wouldn't come in the studio. He stayed in the green room. So they put a camera on him in the green room, and Klitschko was like, why didn't he come in here? Literally next door. And so it was just, you just understood, and they understood the idea was brilliant about getting fighters together.
You made that great transition from boxer into broadcasting, and you've done a great job ever since then. I'm going to ask you a question, Johnny.
Go on.
Boxing or boxing broadcasting? What have you preferred?
Honestly.
Honestly, and it sounds like I don't appreciate it. I love my job. I loved boxing. I loved boxing. When I loved it. But broadcasting's not easy. It's not easy because there's a camera there. All these people that are watching, they can judge me. You're this, they're that, you're town thick, you're whatever. I can't do anything about it. When you're fighting, you can just punch them and knock them out and get rid of them.
I'm so glad you said that, because I feel the same. And like you go, once that boxing's gone, you just always
feel lost.
want it back. And broadcasting's a brilliant substitute, and we absolutely love it and love the broadcasting. But that boxing thing, man, is
boxing
insane.
doesn't train you to do anything apart from stand on the door of a club or be a coach. And so to be fortunate enough to be in a position to tell the public about and transfer to the public about what you see because you've been there, we can, because we've done it. And so therefore, they can't say, no, you don't know what you're talking about, because we've been in the ring. And that's why I love the job. But I just think boxing is something that I can physically control. I can't control what people think of me. I can't control what goes on behind the camera. I can control what happens with me.
Final question, Johnny. And it relates to, you've got an MBE now for services working in boxing and for young people. What do you even tell young people of the age of 10, 11 about life? But what would you have told a 10-year-old Johnny Nelson looking back now about life?
Well, I got the MBE, and the MBE opened the door for me to try and emulate what Brendan did. I'm trying to open children's homes in and around Yorkshire. I'm going to call them Cynthia Care. That's after my mum. And these are going to be homes, we'll have about 3 or 4 kids in the house, because every kid doesn't have a stable upbringing. So we're trying to help that, create that. And it will happen this year. What do I tell a young Johnny Nelson? Love yourself, believe in yourself, and don't be scared. I used to be scared of my own shadow. And it's just unbelief, and it's self-love, self-validation. And you're always looking for someone else to give it you. Because I wanted nothing in life. Because we were broke. No, the black word is broke. Broke is you've got something to sell. You've got something to sell to tide you over. We were broke, we had nothing to sell, so we had to struggle. We had a tin bath. You know, the toilet was down the bottom of the yard. We had nothing, but we were wealthy because my mum was there. So I didn't want for anything. So reality was, you know, I was a mummy's boy going through, and it's about loving yourself, having confidence and self-belief in yourself. That's what I tell a 10-year-old Johnny Nelson.
Well, thank you, Johnny, for sharing that with us and being so open and so honest. We thoroughly enjoyed that.
Pleasure was mine.
You've been watching My Life in Boxing. That was Johnny Nelson. Spencer and I will be back with another one soon.